Hey there, Scott, Modeler X, and up to part 5 already. Part 4 sort of got into digging into styrene and cutting and trenching and gluing, and this is going to be all about laying down strip tape and connecting SMDs so everything's all wired together, and hopefully at the end here we can light her up and show some power to some lighting. So I've done 3 of the 4 strips here. Starting up at the nose, I've laid down strip tape, 2 pieces up in the front section, and I'll kind of zero in on some of the connections. The flood lamps, which we have 6 total along the edge, I just added the resistor and connected it to power right on the strip here, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. And that goes through there. The wires go through a hole that was opened up and connect to the second strip. There's another flood lamp. As we move forward, we're going to be laying down one more piece of strip, and it's been measured out. And so the first thing I usually do is let's get our solder points on the strip tape done, and just use your helping hands here, some solder, and soldering iron, obviously. So right on the pluses and minuses on these little pads at the end of, let me get my glasses, at the end of each end of the strip, I'm going to put some solder on there. So you can see those little balls right at the very end there on the strip, the LED strip. And in this case, this particular strip is going to be it's going to be handling the power first of all in, and then it's also going to connect it to the second piece of tape right at the tip or at the front end of the Star Destroyer. So we're going to put these on both ends. And now that's ready. Let's get some wire, and we'll use red and black, just your basic wire wrapping wire. I'm going to leave a pretty big long end on what we're going to connect to power because I'm not sure where that needs to go, so maybe about a foot. And let's cut that off. And strip it off. Cut that off. So we got just maybe 3 or 4 millimeters on the end of it. And we'll get back to our tape here. And now that we have the connectors on the end of those connector points for the LED tape, just make sure you get the right one to the right place. They're labeled usually pretty discreetly plus and minus, so red to positive. Like that. Oops. Let it harden, and then black to negative. Bada bing. And then we'll take the other end of these and strip them. And I got 12 volts rolling here. So we'll just make sure this lights up, which it does. So we're in good shape there. And we do have the connectors at the other end. So when we put it back into the model, what we're going to do is peel the backing off. And put the power connection at the very rear end of this, and then stretch it out taut and lay it down. that, and then press it down. And that adhesive works pretty darn good, but I never just leave it there because there's sometimes where it just doesn't work very well. What I'm going to do immediately here is I have the plus and minus from the strip that's up in the forward section rolled through a hole that I cut in this little sort of bulkhead. And let's trim that up. But then let's go ahead and solder these so that that comes through. So let's see. Make sure you just get the right red wire to plus. And then black wire to minus. Go ahead immediately and test that. Which I usually like to do at every step of the way just to make sure you've got something in place before you commit to it. So connect plus and minus. Now you can see that that whole strip, including the SMD up in front, is all working. And so now, what I'd like to do is get a hot glue gun and let's just tie down, first of all, the wires. Right up front, and then right over the top of the connectors. And deal with all the little silly string here. And then along the way, I just kind of like to pick one of these segments and put glue on either side, and then right across the middle, kind of an H. And just do that a couple of times in a couple places here. Oops, that should. Looks like we may have trapped one of our wires underneath. There we go. Underneath the tape for the SMD. Pulled that up easily. And then right at the end, I usually like to cover the actual connectors with the hot glue just to kind of insulate them. Alright. I'll go ahead and show you. I've got one with a resistor already attached, but the second one in the back here, I've not done the resistor yet. I did a little playtesting and decided that a 2.2K resistor is what I want to control how bright each of these LEDs are on the outside. These are the flood lamp SMDs. And, you know, LEDs usually take a 650 or a 570, but I've really upped that to a 2.2K just because I want to dim that thing quite a bit because it was a little too bright and kind of jumped out too much. And so, you know, there's the resistor. So the trick here is to get it connected to the SMD. And the first thing we want to do is get the, we've got to take the lead from the SMD, and then we've got to connect it to one side of the resistor. And on the resistor, I'm going to go ahead and hold this in place with the helping hands. And then on the side, I'm going to connect this. I'm going to add a little solder. to the wire so that when we melt this together, it will stick a lot better with the piece of wire from the SMD. And so now let's just connect this to our helping hands and put it right down here. And what I'm going to do, the light is probably not helping us out here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just touch, and I've already put some solder onto the SMD end of the red lead, and then all we got to do is just heat this up briefly and they'll just stick together. Trick is to get solder on both the resistor and then the lead coming from the SMD, and then once you do that, it just boom, works out like a charm. And so on the other end of that, let's get a little chunk, let's say about 3 or 4 inches of red wire. Strip both ends, and on the resistor end, I just sort of take my thumb and hold the piece of stripped wire, and then just take it and spin it around, and then after we've got that wrapped about 3 times, mount it back on my helping hands, and apply a little solder. So let me show you a close-up of this. So now the next trick here is to just cut off the excess, and it's mainly the resistor. It's got these big, long, thick leads, so just cut those off, and they're so much bigger than the wire you're soldering to, it's almost embarrassing. So there we go. And a little piece on the inside. So now that SMD has been resistored, and the next step would be to, let's put a little heat shrink around it so we don't get any shorts. And I'm just using normal heat shrink here. And cut off about, 3/4 to 1 inch. And then put it around that piece there. Get it balanced so all the metal is covered up. And then just a quick little torch with a lighter shrinks that up, wraps it around that resistor, and it tightens up, and voila, we're ready to go. So what we're going to do is, let me get this kind of balanced out, thing of glue, and just shove it under the hull here so it quits rocking around. And on one of these little guys in the middle of the tape, I'm going to do the same deal we did on the ends, where I just touch the soldering iron tip to the pad, roll some solder onto it until it collects into a little ball, and you do that on both plus and minus, and we are good to go. So now the next trick is to take the positive lead and connect it to the positive side of that little bubble we just created with solder. Boom. And then this is where this thing's rocking around. It's a pain, so try to get this thing steadied up. And using tweezers helps too. So we can take this wire lead and just connect her up, load the solder, and let it hang out in the middle. And so there we go. The next next step here would be to sort of fix the wires with some hot glue. I'm going to go down this side of the tape just because we have this little well here which has some drilled out holes. So let's apply a little hot glue, get these tapped down. That is how that came out, with the black and red wires connecting to the plug strip, or not plug strip, the LED tape. And that's where it went into the actual output is going to be right there. As we get up here, we'll have to do the same thing with that lead. But there's the connection to the forward assembly. Kind of goes up there. Alright, we've connected the rest of these things. Let me do a little close-up for you. So there's the sixth and final connection for the SMDs. There's one up here, one there. As we get midship, kind of right there, and then right there. And then we get towards the rear of the trench. We get there and there. And they're all wired up the same. And the resistor we're using is a 2.2K, like I said. And you can buy these, I don't know, Amazon, eBay. So now let's light these up and connect these to power and make sure that we got a good connection here for everything involved. Right now I've got power going to each side of the Star Destroyer, and at some point we'll connect that up to the main power. But as you can see, that side lights up, and you can see the SMDs right in here and here. And then we're getting too much light there. Not sure how to turn that to let you see the front one, but the front one's lit too. So let's put top and bottom together and see what we got here. Obviously it's not glued together, so we got some light leaks and some other stuff going on. But the intent here is to put a piece of fiber optic, maybe about 1/2 inch each, through each of these holes, and that'll bring just the general window lights up to snuff. And then with those flood lamps, that'll look good. And then when we seal it and get rid of the light leaks, I'm actually really excited about how this is taking shape here. So, part 4 of Imperial Star Destroyer, looking good. And thanks for tuning in to Modeler X, and we will catch you next time.